Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is August 10th, and we've got a lot to talk about today here, folks. We're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop right now. You can see British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. There goes our system. Went through yesterday. Nice onshore flow, seasonable temperatures, some measurable precip for some of the areas across Pacific Northwest. We'll take a look at those details coming up. But the big weather story here is this trough digging out over the Pacific Ocean, south of the Aleutian Islands there for Alaska, and this is really going to build a powerful trough. It's going to amplify the ridge downstream here and really warm us up across the Pacific Northwest. We'll take a look at those temperatures we can expect here in a moment. Hurricane Dora continues to pass off to the west here, cast a very powerful gradient across the Hawaiian Islands as it moved to the south. Some relatively dry air moved over the area as well, and some devastating fires broke out across West Maui there. So check out my video yesterday if you want to see the meteorology behind that. This is looking at the wind out over the Pacific Ocean. You can see the development of some of those storms out there south of the Aleutian Islands here are going to help amplify and build that ridge. If you look to the south, you can see Dora continuing to move off to the west here. The gradient is relaxing across the Hawaiian Islands, but there's still some fire danger going on there. Some pretty dry air over the islands as we speak. And if you want to save 10% off on this nice affordable home weather station here, I've been testing against much more expensive equipment. It's doing quite well. It's got a great smartphone app as well. Go ahead and click that link down below. Check out all the people that have one on the Oregon, the Washington coast, Willamette Valley. This is a smart station that they do talk to each other here, but you can keep your data private if you really want to as well. Highly recommend that station. Looking at SeaTac yesterday, 77, 79 is the average high this time of year. You can see by the time we get to today, it's actually 78. So we're starting to slow downward trend here as we go towards the fall, but check out some of these record highs from the past. 1981, pretty impressive heat wave. 98, 99. I can actually remember that. I was 8 years old back then. Nice. So we're going to challenge some of these high temperatures here. We could get into the low 90s as we go towards next week. I don't know if we're going to get record hot here for Seattle, but the Willamette Valley is definitely going to warm up, potentially above 100 degrees for many locations as well. We'll check out those temperatures here in a moment, but just kind of highlighting the fact that we still can get very warm this time of year here across Pacific Northwest. This is a probability of 100-degree days next week for Medford, Oregon. Check it out. Good chances you're going to be having 2 to 3 days of 100 plus temperatures down there, and you can see Roseburg as well. So interesting stuff here. Another graphic here from the National Weather Service Medford talking about the high heat risk next week. This was issued yesterday and still applies. Here we go for Pendleton as well. You can see these temperatures really uptrending here as we go on into next week. We're just not quite sure exactly how hot we're going to get just yet, which is pretty typical in this time frame, but the bet for a good warm up here is definitely in the cards. Here we go with day 3 through 7 hazards outlook. You can see that hazardous heat goes all the way up towards Olympia, Washington. This could be extended further northward depending on how the models develop this ridge here over the next couple of days as well. But you can see the Willamette Valley is really going to be targeted here coming up. Some very warm temperatures likely through the Willamette Valley. Take a look at those here in a moment. This is the precipitation for August 9th through August 10th here. And you can see some areas did pick up a tenth of an inch, a few hundredths, but SeaTac kind of right in the dry spot there, and a few hundredths of the inch of rain off to the southeast, maybe across Auburn there as well. But the further you go north, check out some of the Vancouver metro areas. Looks like over half an inch of rain there here. In Nanaimo, about a third of an inch of rain there. So not too bad. And you can see the further south you went, the lesser precipitation amounts models did a pretty good job here. Some measurable precip on the Oregon coast, just kind of trace amounts here across the Portland metro, however, as well. But look at 100th of an inch out there just off by Benton City here. So yeah, take whatever we can get this time of year, right? And looks like it actually got a little bit of rainfall near Spokane as well, a few hundredths of an inch. So yeah, nice little frontal system going through. Summertime stuff here, pretty typically weak at this time of year. This is looking at last night's European run, 500 millibars. So there goes that trough digging down across the Aleutians and portions of Alaska. And then this powerful ridge builds across Pacific Northwest here. It actually trended upwards a little bit here over the last day, but you can see this thing kind of hangs on as we go on into next week, protecting us from any kind of storm systems, making its way on in through here, and we could get some offshore flow at times as well. So we have to really be careful about starting fires across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon coming up here, and we may introduce any smoke that is out there across some of the North Cascades and British Columbia back down into some of the bigger metro areas. So something to watch here over the next few days. This is the GFS ensemble. This is last night's run. You can see our system that swung through. Here we go, building the ridge over the area here, and check it out all the way up into British Columbia. Nice ridge building as we go through this weekend here, warming up quite nicely, and this ridge hangs with us as we go on in through next week, if you believe last night's run of the GFS, and then maybe some troughing way up into Fantasyland. We're not going to get too excited about that just yet, over 200 hours out, but the European is showing something similar. This is looking at the European. check out Portland. I mean, you're talking 3 days, 100 plus here possible. And you can see the average for this time of year, about 84. So this would be substantially above average for this time of year as we go through mid-August. And then maybe more seasonal through the extended, but we'll take that a day at a time. You can see we're trying to deal with this heat wave in the meantime. And some of these overnight lows are pretty darn warm here as well. We've got a lot of warm water off the coastline. It'll be interesting to see how that affects our overnight lows also. Here's GFS for Portland. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days here of upper 90s or 100-degree day possible here, and we'll watch this closely as it looks, the confidence is increasing pretty well here for the Willamette Valley, really getting warm here with this next heat wave. This is Seattle Metro. You can see a couple days maybe up towards 90 degrees here on the European, but pretty warm here. You can see definitely above average for this time of year. As the red line shows for Seattle, mid 70s or so, mid and upper 70s, and then maybe dropping back down. But you can see these overnight lows pretty darn warm here as well. So it'd be interesting to see what that warm water off the coastline does. And the GFS here showing 3 days of 90 plus for SeaTac, which is pretty darn warm as well. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of mid 80s or higher potentially coming up as we go through next week. This is Astoria. Even that heat can get out to the coastal areas here with thermal trough possibilities developing. I'll show you some of the weather models on that and what a thermal trough is. This is Hoquiam as well, kind of showing some of that heat here as we go in through early next week. Spokane is going to get a bump with the temperatures here. You can see the average for this time of year right around 86, 85, and temperatures potentially getting up towards 100 degrees here next week. This is the probability of 2-meter max temperature of 90 degrees or greater. So let's scroll through this, and we're going to go to Friday afternoon here. You see some of this developing into eastern Washington. Here we go for Saturday. Willamette Valley starting to be included there, but by Sunday, look at this. Virtually 90% for a lot of the Willamette Valley, hitting 90 plus here, working its way into southwest Washington as well. Eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, lower elevations on into Idaho. And by the time you go on into Monday, check it out. Starting to get up towards SeaTac here. All the Willamette Valley likely to be 90 plus or hotter here by the time you get towards Monday. Here's Tuesday. Look at the warm up coming here, folks. Some areas all the way up into southwest BC, even towards the coastal areas, could get pretty warm here depending on just how strong the thermal troughing is. But look by Wednesday, even SeaTac showing pretty good percentages for 90 plus day here coming up. So you can definitely see the warm up coming here across the Pacific Northwest and should continue on in through next week. Check out Thursday there and Friday as well. Now taking a look at that probability of 100 degrees or greater here. Now let's scroll ahead towards Saturday afternoon. Sunday, look at some of the Portland Metro could even be included in that as well. It does show some probabilities making its way into the Willamette Valley. And here we go for Monday. Look at this. High odds of 100 plus temperatures for some of the Willamette Valley and eastern Washington as we go towards Monday. Tuesday, something similar there as well. So definitely something to watch over the next few days. We're going to get pretty darn right toasty here across a lot of the region. Now I froze it here. This is Tuesday morning. This is sea level pressure. And you can see that thermal troughing. You can imagine the high pressure here wants to flow out. Offshore winds, compression winds coming off the higher terrain, really warming things up across western Washington and western Oregon there. And this is what the surface winds would look like, about 10 meters off the ground. You can kind of see some of this offshore component trying to work some of that forest fire smoke back down into the metro areas. And if it does so, it's going to play havoc with some of the high temperatures we're going to get here as well. So yeah, it's a good time to not start any fires across the Washington and Oregon Cascades right now. I don't know. I don't really need to tell you that, but hopefully everybody's being extra careful out there as well, because any kind of offshore wind here will quickly bring that into the metro areas. And check it out at about 3,000 feet off the surface here. Offshore winds exist on and through next week. Dangerous stuff here, folks. We're going to increase fire danger all the way across the Pacific Northwest here as we go on in through next week. Here's a 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. I don't have to tell you about that. And we're going to dry out here as well as we go through mid-August. And this is looking at the seasonal outlook here. This is for August 1st through October 31st here. And you can see drought development likely across a lot of Washington, Oregon, including portions of western Washington, and drought persists across a lot of the area as well. So that's not great, but thought I'd show you guys that one. This is the excessive heat possibility all the way across the Pacific Northwest, including much of the West Coast, all the way through August 18th. Actually, this is just a 2-day time frame on this, but we're going to be warm for the entire period for the most part. And we're really going to start to kick up the fire danger here as we go on into later this weekend into early next week here as well. I expect upgrades, and there's probably going to be some areas that are high risk by the time we get towards this weekend. And this is looking August 1st through August 9th across the USA. You can see the warm conditions here across western Washington and Oregon so far this month. And you can kind of see that warmth across the south, Intermountain West below average here. Now, this is looking way out. This is the European seasonal, just purely a fantasy forecast. This would be for the month of August here. Check out September, October, November, December, January. So if you look way off into the extended, maybe you can see kind of a flip-flop from La Nina conditions here where you kind of get this troughing over the west coast here and you get the ridge that builds and allows for the northwest flow. This is going to reverse stuff here, more typical El Nino stuff where we'd get a warmer flow here, maybe not necessarily wetter here. We'll have to see how things line up here, but an interesting signal. And you can see February, that's even enhanced a bit there, well out over the Pacific Ocean here. So the storms would be stronger out here, more of a southwest warmer flow across a lot of the west coast, but could be wet for some areas of the west coast as well. We'll continue to watch that as we get closer. But anyway, yeah, here goes our trough. Our ridge is coming. There's yesterday's system. Hurricane Dora swinging by the Hawaiian Islands. It brought those big winds here and started that huge fire across Lahaina. But yeah, interesting stuff here, folks. Active weather for summer coming up here. Big heat wave coming up. Be careful about starting fires out there across Pacific Northwest. It is that time of year where things really start burning. And once we get that offshore wind, especially, things can get really dry, even down in Seattle, Portland, Willamette Valley, coastal ranges, BC, and Canada's been burning a lot of the year already. So hopefully we don't really start to introduce huge amounts of smoke down into our big metropolitan areas. And yeah, so anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. We'll look at everything again tomorrow. We'll try to break down the temperatures. We'll see how things trend in the model runs as we go through the day to day. We'll talk about it tomorrow. So anyway, hope you guys are liking the videos. Click on your notifications, click like and subscribe. We'll talk again tomorrow, and I'll see you then.